Okay, now we should hold hands.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, guys, welcome to the second episode. Is that what we're gonna do? Episodes? Second episode?
Installment episode. Yeah, it's episode. We have it in as episode. So
the combination between Cam's own journey and then working with myself as a nutrition coach here at 346 Grit CrossFit. Kind of bring you guys the two perspectives of as a nutrition coach and as a client, while Cam has his own YouTube channel, podcast, and stuff that you have going.
Yeah, we got the own stuff, but yeah, with this, it's going to be we are focusing on the nutrition program that we have that is not only for our gym.
Exactly.
It's for anyone out there. We can do everything remote, obviously, like that.
Yeah.
But this is just the sample of how it works. That it works.
Yep. Yeah, this
specifically.
Exactly. This is kind of our way of giving you guys the evidence. You know, I stand by the three big E's: the education, the experience, and then the evidence.
Is that where E cubed comes from?
That is actually part of where
I was going to say
my personal business came from. The E3 Performance. Well, it stands for also Earl the Third.
Yeah.
But that's I kind of like.
Dude, layers,
man. Inception of
it's like an onion.
Yeah. But really, that's like factual. You teach people, you let them have the experience, and everything goes correct. You lay out the proper plan, and they execute along with accountability and the consistency. They will reap the rewards. So that's where the evidence part comes from. But this is, now we can go over kind of what we had for your initial consult and the plan that we laid out for you.
So last week we talked about the program in itself. We talked about our backgrounds. And so the very first step in this program, very first step is that 15-minute consult.
That you
even want to do this program.
Yeah.
Everyone says yes. Now it goes on to the 30-minute, 45, 1 hour long initial consult, what we're calling the initial consult. So let's talk about that.
That initial consult is really about diving into the root why. You might have these goals, but why are you doing them? Like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Well, I want to fit in my clothes better. Well, why is that important to you? Well, I haven't fit in them for a couple of years. Well, why haven't you fit in for a couple of years? Because, again, you just talk about layers. Everything layers on top of each other. And when we get to the root why of ultimately you have this end game goal, now we can start going the day by day and figuring out, which is the next step. After we figure out someone's why, it's like, okay, let's look at your daily routine. What time are you getting up? What time are you going to bed? What are you eating throughout the day? We'll get into water intake. We do a lot of things, the stress levels, your exercise level. And then after we've kind of figured out where the working points are in all of those sections, we recap, and I let you decide, where do you want to start? Because I said this in the first episode, this is not my journey. This is yours. And it's totally up to you where you want to go. I'm just here to help steer the course.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't really know where to get started, how to get started, which obviously you are there to still, once you said, several times, guide that ship. Luckily for me, I know exactly where my weakness is, where to start. And we really talked about the thing that we hit most on, because we've worked together. We know where my weaknesses was my why. Why do I want to do this? And really attaching that emotion to it really changes everything and really gets you personal with this, and it becomes linked to who you are. And that's a big thing, I think, for a lot of people that they kind of miss. But without getting too sappy about it,
that's what's gonna keep you motivated.
Yeah, exactly.
Understanding that why, and it helps me also know like where you're at mentally.
Yeah.
And then we can constantly gauge that throughout the journey.
Just out of curiosity, what would happen if someone was like, well, I don't know why I want to do this?
I have yet to have that.
Okay.
And it's like, then why did you come here today?
Yeah. It's a numbers game.
You want to find out about the information?
Yeah.
You
could be that person.
You could be that person.
Don't be that person.
But ultimately, after we figured out your why, after we kind of dove into all the specifics of everything, we decided that we kind of a few things we're going to work on. Initially, the main habit, and that's what our program's based off of, is habits. because ultimately, as you change your habits, that changes the natural rhythm of what you do. The results ultimately
Just
will
becomes
come.
a second nature.
Yep, we keep talking about these layers of things. But ultimately, the number one thing you wanted to work on was meal prep,
Yep.
which is awesome. And so when we talked about meal prep, we got into what are the action steps that are going to make sure that this happens. So we developed those for you. And so we layered some things on for that. In addition, with your initial habit that you'll work on for the next probably 3 weeks or so. And then we'll reevaluate with our monthly check-ins, big picture. But obviously we'll have our weekly check-ins as well. Yeah. You'll also track macros. You'll be doing that, utilizing the app. And speaking of the app, next week we will actually dive into more specifics of what the app looked like, how you can track your habits, the daily little workouts or the tips and tricks that we give you guys.
The best practices.
Yes, yeah. They're just the little sprinkles, just to keep, the sprinkles, just to help you keep the new knowledge, keep the knowledge flowing. But yeah, we'll dive into that next week. And then speaking of habits, we talked a little bit about habits and how they're formed. It's the consistency and the layering of them. When we get into developing habits, you can't bite off too much.
Yeah, don't go full bore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like cold turkey. Like I'm eating out 4 days a week right now for lunch. I'm like, well, you're going to stop that and you're going to put in a new habit that you're going to make lunch for you every single day. Okay, realistically, what can we do? And when we're creating habits, it's very, very similar to creating goals. The old SMART, where they're simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. Or specific, that's what it was, specific.
Yeah, because not everything has to happen all at once.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, that's when you go into developing those, that's what you have to keep in that mind, a little SMART rule. And then over time, you adapt them. When I first get started with a lot of people, some of the habits that I see a lot of times is eating out, which is part of what we talk about in initial consult. Or we see a habit of maybe not conscientiously balancing your meals, or it's not necessarily even a habit, it's having the knowledge of what are the best foods for me, because there's never a bad food, it's just good, better, best.
Yeah. And I want to kind of touch on that a little bit, because the knowledge base, because most people think that losing weight, losing fat, get into the deficit, therefore everyone needs to eat 1,200 less calories.
Yeah.
And that's the absolute opposite of what you want to do.
You that, go find another coach.
Yeah.
Go steer clear, because finish what you're saying, and I want to go into it.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. I mean, story from my past is, my wife Sarah, she's also been a little bit heavier, not quite to the extent that we experienced, but we in our initial gym, we were in this she was in this like a 90-day program, right? Of this challenge, 90-day program with our gym at the time.
Yeah.
And I was working with her a little bit. That's when my armchair expertness was at its max, at its peak, right? Bodybuilding.com, everything. And so we got her on a program, actually, it was Renaissance periodization.
Okay.
Fantastic. And she was eating the most that she'd ever had in her entire life. She was working out once a day, eating 1,800 to 1,900 calories, depending on the day. And she lost 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. She looked great. She performed well. She lost 30 pounds, gained a lot of muscle, like eating the most that she's ever eaten. And so that's just a simple fact that a lot of people don't understand. Right. So just wanted to.
Yeah, and kind of to carry with that, if you ever have a coach that is trying to severely restrict your calories, or any program that wants to severely restrict your calories, and I'm happy to talk with anyone on that, one-on-one, steer clear. Because more often than not, what I see, and a lot of other coaches can agree with me on it, is that reasonable coaches will agree that more often than not, when we see programs or something that really restricts calories, yes, you lose weight. But those programs are much harder to stick to. they're much more likely to develop eating disorders. And then more often than not, when you see people come off those, because they're not developed long term, once people come off of those, they gain either a portion or all or even more than the weight they lost. They gain it right back. And
Biggest Loser. If you ever seen that show, if you ever seen the aftermath of that, it's just they're on such low carb diets, which decreases a lot of water.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you go back to eating normal, guess what? That water coming back.
Now, there are some programs out there that are developed to restrict calories, but they're also very, very specific in the sense of they're developed for people that don't work out, who have a very sedentary lifestyle. Okay, what I'd rather see is you eat at a reasonable deficit and go get 7, 8, 9, 10,000 steps in that day. Go get active, because it's a two-pronged attack to this. You want to eat for your goals, but go and move. Keep moving. Go and do something. Don't just eat and sit at your desk all day. So yeah, that's kind of like one of the biggest habits I see with that. Now, on the other hand, some really good habits to either have, or I do see people more often than not, and lately, even with what we've had here, it being a little warmer, I have seen people do a really good job about their hydration.
Yes.
More and more these days. And that's a habit that I used to see not be very good, but I'm seeing be really good. People are getting at minimum like 64 ounces, usually bare minimum for women. I like to say 80 ounces for men, bare minimum. More likely, I like to see people 80 to 100 ounces, especially if you are an active person.
I mean, if you're an active person, it gets even more, because I think we have me on, what, 150?
Yeah, you're
I'm also a heavy sweater.
You sweat a little bit. Yeah, you sweat
Just a little bit.
But yeah, you want to be getting a good amount of hydration. And when speaking of hydration, this is a little tangent. Count majority of your fluids. Like, you can count your sodas. If you want to pick a fight on diet versus regular, you can go see our podcast on sucralose, and that will hopefully support and make you a little more calm about taking diet drinks. But your coffees, go ahead and count those. Your energy drinks, that's fine. Something like this, the Kill Cliff, the Fit Aid, count that. It's good to have just straight water for sure, but you can still count these things as hydration, unless you're taking like straight espresso shots. You can count majority of the fluids.
Other ingredients, carbonated water, number one.
There you go.
Yep.
Perfect. Another good habit I've seen is people are more and more into, and a good habit to have is into intuitive eating, where they're more conscientious about foods they're picking, whether or not they have the education, because that's something we can control, and teaching someone, they have the right, it's not habit, it's a good mindset. They have the habit of wanting to make the right decision.
Yeah, choosing the brown rice versus the processed bread, kind of thing. Yeah. So
those are some really good habits. And if you are having some of those downside habits or having some struggles in habits, super, super easy ways to adjust those. And we could just talked about a few of those.
Yeah, yeah. Just don't even have to get rid of the habit. Just tweak it even. If you're eating out 4 times a week, maybe just do one for a couple of weeks. And then take that one away. But yeah, building on the layers.
But it then gets into those habits. How do you stick with those?
Yeah. Well, yeah, make them manageable, make them fit into your lifestyle, make it so you're not miserable.
Smart, man.
Yeah.
Smart. And then also, even at that point, some people have struggles with that. That's where a coach can come in. It's that you talked first, I don't know where to start. Cool. Work with a coach, figure out where you need to start, and then from there you have the accountability to help be consistent in all that. So again, that's 9 times out of 10, that is the number one thing I see people really, really needing or wanting, is that accountability. A lot of people can know what I need to do, but I just don't do it. attitude or mindset.
And with that, it's and the daily struggle and the accountability is every day. It really is. Like a coach is going to do once a week. Maybe if you need a little bit more of that extra touch, that's definitely certainly something that you can talk to EJ about. But I mean that number one is self accountability that you have to work on right there, and keeping with those habits every day, which is why you start with the lowest denominator, or the
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, there you go. Low-hanging fruit, the first layer,
Yeah.
and working your way up, making things easier and easier and easier. And it's funny. There's some study. I hate all these studies where like 90% of people that wake up early in the morning or do something see a change in something. Well, that's just because they're being cognizant of the healthy lifestyle. It's not that just that one thing changes everyone's life. It's if you add in this one habit, that's going to make you more cognizant of the other things in your life that are going to create a negative effect in your journey that you're trying to be on.
Yeah.
Like right now, my in-laws are always bringing pastries over. My mother-in-law brings pastries over almost every single morning for Sarah because she's got to eat. And they always ask me, "Do you want some?" I'm like, "No."
I do want one.
I do want one.
But
last night I was like, "I don't want a beer. I do want a beer. I'm not gonna have a beer. Not gonna have a beer because I'm cognizant because I'm hitting those things."
Yeah.
Anyway.
And we were kind of talking about like that one thing, or the 80-20 rule, rule or guide, about how that small thing, that 20% of what you do can have an effect on the other 80. So like right now, that ultimate goal you have is dropping some body fat and obviously building cardio capacity and getting some other stuff on top of that, on the end game of these things. But it's this little 20%, maybe even less right now, that we're working on, that is going to help that other 80 and get you to where you want to be. So it's all about working those little things and stacking them up. Again, how many times?
How many times we say it? Layer. Going on those layers. The 80-20 rule. Another important. The 80-20 rule is so prevalent in everything that is habit forming, productivity, weight loss, anything. And in the journey of weight loss in itself, the 80-20 rule is, so in the simplistic, 80% of your effort comes from, or 80% of your results. Thank you. Come from 20% of your effort. Well, in the grand scheme of weight loss, you can work out 4 hours a day on all these different mobilities, great modalities, right? But you can't out-train a bad diet. It's just literally impossible. So 80% of your results of weight loss, of fat loss, of muscle gain comes from 20%, which is nutrition. Look at that. The more you know.
And it goes right in hand. And like you said, 80% of your nutritional goals come from that small 20%. It goes right around the other way, where you say you can't out-train a bad diet. Well, you can't out-eat shitty training.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you want to build muscle? Okay, well then you have to go lift heavy. Like it's a whole different topic about people that want to
maybe
talk
we'll
about
make this a sub-episode.
pure volume and stuff like that. But you want to build abs. Okay, you need to eat right. Cool. You need to go lift heavy stuff. You need to go do heavy overhead squats. You need to do heavy squats, front squats. You need to do Olympic lifts. This stuff will build an abdominal wall, and then you can tune it with accessory cardio and all the stuff like that. But it's again, that's the whole rule of you can't out-train a bad diet, and you can't out-diet bad training.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And if you want to build muscle, you got to get that protein in. And for every bit of muscle that you have, guess what? That burns, what is it, like 10 times the amount?
It's a lot. It's an active tissue, so it's like I don't remember off the top of my head.
Literally the act of having, or the existence of muscle in your body, the more you have of it, the more you burn. So if you build that muscle, then and you're still eating the same amount, guess what? Your body is continually, exponentially increasing how many calories it burns. So if you have that excess fat, then guess what? That's going to go bye-bye.
Yeah,
that's
got
where
to
the
get
first
the
thing's
energy
burn.
from somewhere.
Exactly.
Sure.
So, yeah.
It's good.
kind of changing a little bit of topics here, but
yeah, a little bit.
Nutrition.
Kind of the last little bit we want to talk about. It's kind of like mindset and words we use. Dreams versus goals, the to-dos versus commitments. So like dreams versus goals. Dreams are great to have. They're aspirations. The goals are those steps to get you to those dreams. I mean, would you agree?
No, that's exactly, that's the whole motivational poster, right? Is dreams are goals without steps. That's literally it's,
I don't know about the poster.
well, I'd say poster, but that's the
saying, I guess.
That's the saying, yeah.
Okay.
If you have a vision board, that's your dream.
Yep.
If you have, this is how I'm going to get my vision board, that's a goal.
Yep.
Right? So.
And then like the to-dos and the commitments, you know what you need to do, but are you commit to doing it?
I have a continual to-do list for this podcast. For I need to do all this research. That to-do has followed me every day until I finish it. Commitments are the things that you are committed, that no matter what, at the end of the day, that thing, those things are going to get done.
Yep.
And that's where your habits form. If you have those commitments and you commit to doing them every day, that forms a habit. There are so many, I don't know what number you have in your head. There are so many numbers of like, if you do this X amount of times, that's how long it takes to form the habit. 66 is like one scientific number. If you do this thing 66 days in a row, that habit is formed.
You do 30 times, 100 times, 66 times.
90 days is another, a full quarter.
Be committed to doing it every day, or whatever schedule you have set for that, ultimately with a habit that you want, and eventually it will be second nature. You won't like.
It'll just be that thing that you do.
Yeah, knowing to having protein, carbs, and veggies with every meal. Maybe a little extra fat. Like it'll become second nature. Like, okay, I know I need to make a balanced meal.
Yep.
I want to train 3 days a week. All right, which days are you going to train? Blah, 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 blah. Committing to that for a while, to second nature, that you are going these days every week, and your schedule flows around those, and those are second nature. You're planning for them, you're committed to them, you're progressing with them, I'm sure. But yeah, ultimately those commitments turn into the habits. But how does that all happen? Building structure and being accountable to it.
Well, and the big thing is about commitments is like I said, no matter what, that the thing at the end of the day is that like it gets done.
Yeah.
So good example, we had my initial meeting. One of my habits, one of my things to work on is getting back to the gym 5 days a week, right?
Yep.
And Monday was a horrible day. Had a really bad night with the triplets. We had some stuff going on, and I ended up coaching pretty much 3 of the 5 classes that day.
Yeah.
And I just did not have the energy to work out. But granted, I was walking around doing movements,
very
coaching
active,
people. I was pretty active for that day. So I did chalk it up to kind of a win that day. And then yesterday, I came in and I told you, I was like, dude, it was still a bad night with the triplets, better night. But like, dude, my back is killing me. We were doing 70%, 75% power clean complex. And I was like, I'm either going to come in, I'm going to stretch it out, and I'm going to be able to do this workout, or I'm going to scale it. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to move, I'm going to do what I can, but I need to be in the gym for an hour today. Kind of the same thing. My back's still giving me some issues, but I'm here today. I'm going to get it figured out, and then hopefully go for a mile run after this, because my performance yesterday in running was crap.
That's right. Hey, you did great on the lifting, and you're also getting back into your cardio fitness. So it's just that periodization, constant variation, and ultimately you'll get to where you want to be.
I did have one client yesterday. He texted me in the middle of the night, well, like 9 p.m. For me, it's middle of the night. He was like, dude, you only did that much on the calorie bike? I was like, yeah, dude, I'm getting back. But then I just looked at his weight. I was like, do you want to talk about the weightlifting for a quick second? He's like, okay. Yeah.
Got me there.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, commitment. It means that you're going to do it no matter what that day, no excuses.
Yep, exactly. So today we talked about your initial consult, kind of recapping from that, talking about habits and kind
layers.
Layers, a lot of layers. And then a little bit on the app, but we'll talk more about that next week. And then kind of like how the words we use can help develop or hinder us in creating those dreams or goals and developing those habits and commitments and getting us to where we want to be. But you got anything else for good of the order?
I mean, as far as the words, just be good about that self-talk. What you say to other people when you come in here. Yeah, I have this dream of doing that. No, you have this goal that you are working on actively. Dream is sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Look at that.
Well, that's everything. Guys, join us on this journey and let us know if you're interested in finding out more about the nutrition coaching process or the program that we have here at 346 Grit CrossFit. You can reach out to Cam or myself. I think you'll have our Instagram handles on this.
Like, subscribe, follow, comment.
All the things.
All the things.
You got it.
All the different platforms, everything linked below.
Yep.
Until next week.
Later.